No one saw it coming. Not like this. Everyone knew the 2025 Royal Gala was going to be flashy. Dresses worth more than mansions, enough cameras to blind a small town, and royal tension thick enough to slice with a butter knife. But what happened inside Buckingham Palace that night? Yeah, that flipped the whole monarchy on its head. Now, let's rewind a little. The necklace. That's where everything starts. We're talking about the 4-strand pearl necklace, Queen Elizabeth's favorite. The kind of heirloom that doesn't just sparkle, it speaks. It tells stories. It's a symbol, a crown without the weight, a statement that whoever wears it isn't just another royal, they're the heart of the monarchy. And in the weeks leading up to the gala, Camilla was convinced, no, certain, she was finally going to wear it. Charles told her she would. Said it right to her face, in that dim study of his while the rain tapped on the palace windows. You'll be the soul of the monarchy, he told her. Gave her the moment she'd been clawing toward for decades. Not just standing beside the throne, but in the light, not the outsider anymore. She believed him. She wore that promise like a crown you couldn't see. And the palace, it started shifting. You'd think it'd be subtle, some staff changes, new flower arrangement. But Camilla wasn't playing small. She started replacing Anne's loyal staff with her own people. Nephews, cousins, friends of friends, anyone who'd bow to her and not ask questions. Quiet firings, odd promotions. One by one, old loyalists vanished from the guest lists and the gala prep teams. Whispers turned into full-on fear. Elsie was one of them. Was 28 but had worked in the palace since she was a teenager, dedicated to Anne, trusted by William, never missed a day, and suddenly gone, axed from the gala staff without warning. The reason? Lacking innovation. Please. She wasn't flashy, but she was loyal, too loyal for Camilla's taste. And when Elsie realized it wasn't about performance but politics, she wrote a letter. A simple, heartfelt letter straight to Charles. Not begging, just warning that things weren't right, that Camilla was turning the palace into a personal kingdom. Charles read that letter the night before the gala, alone in his reading room, wind slipping in through a cracked window. And for a moment, he just sat there, staring at those trembling words. He'd promised Camilla the necklace, promised her the spotlight, but now he was seeing the cost of that promise. Loyal people discarded like trash, traditions trampled for ego. By the time the gala started, you could feel the tension before stepping into the hall. Crystal chandeliers, red carpets, gold-trimmed everything, but underneath all that glitter was silence. That kind of silence where nobody breathes too loud. People knew something was off. And then came the moment. Charles stood before the crowd, eyes scanning the room like a man about to break something sacred. Everyone expected him to hand the necklace to Camilla. That was the rumor, the expectation, the promise. But instead, he gave it to Anne. Just like that. No build-up, no explanation. 1 minute, Camilla's sitting there smiling like a queen. The next, her face drains white, the hall froze, and she lost it. She didn't just fume quietly, she snapped, stormed to the front, ripped the box from the guard's hands, screamed at Charles in front of everyone, "You betray me in front of the world." And then she threw it. The necklace, Elizabeth's sacred heirloom, thrown to the marble floor like garbage, pearls scattered everywhere, gasps, cameras, chaos. That moment right there wasn't just about a necklace. It was about a broken promise, exposed ambition, and the crown itself catching fire in slow motion. Charles didn't flinch, not when the pearls clattered across the floor, not when Camilla's voice cracked through the hall like a thunderclap. He stood still, spine straight, hands clenched by his side, eyes locked on the broken necklace as if he could see the entire monarchy splintering with each rolling pearl. And then he moved. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped down from the dais and picked up the shattered box. No fanfare, no panic, just the calm of a man who knew this was no longer a gala, it was a reckoning. He placed the box on the podium again, turned toward the audience, and did something no one expected. He spoke the truth. This necklace, he said, voice steady but heavy, was never about decoration. It was about devotion, loyalty, integrity. It belonged to my mother, who understood the weight of service and the silence of duty. He held up a crumpled piece of paper, eyes squinted across the room, trying to read it from a distance. "This is a letter," he continued, "from Elsie, a palace maid who served this family for 10 years, fired, silenced, because she stood with Anne, because she wasn't loyal to someone's ego, because she didn't fit into someone else's story of power. Camilla stood frozen, face pale, shoulders tense. She wasn't crying anymore, she was trembling. Her mask had cracked, and behind it was a fury even she couldn't control. The screen behind the podium lit up, not with glamour shots or palace history montages, no. It displayed Elsie's letter, the raw, handwritten truth, every misspelled word, every smudge of ink, every line soaked in desperation. The silence in the hall deepened. Kate's jaw clenched. William's hands were folded tight in his lap, knuckles white. Anne's eyes didn't move. She read the entire letter with the kind of stillness only people born to endure storms could pull off. Charles kept speaking. "I made a promise," he said, turning toward Camilla. "But promises, when twisted, become weapons. What I gave in good faith was used to silence voices, to replace loyalty with obedience. That is not monarchy. That is not tradition. That is not leadership." A shuffle broke the silence. William stood up. His voice rang out strong and clear. Enough. Just that. One word. But it carried the frustration of months, maybe years. "This palace," he said, turning to the room, "has become a place of fear, not pride. Not because of mistakes, but because one woman decided the throne owed her everything." Kate rose next. "Elsie isn't just a maid, she's family. She's been with us through joy and grief, celebrations and funerals, and she deserved more than a silent exile because someone felt threatened by her presence." Then Anne. No preamble, no emotion, just truth. Camilla never wanted to serve. She wanted to conquer. That's not a queen. That's a tyrant in silk gloves. A few guests started clapping. Then more. Within seconds, the entire hall thundered with applause. Not for the show, not for the jewels, but for the words. For the truth being spoken out loud, unfiltered. Camilla didn't move. Her hands were shaking. Her lip twitched like she might say something, might scream again, might throw something else. But she didn't. She just sat down, slowly, quietly, her eyes wide, red, hollow. Charles faced the crowd. "Tonight," he said, "is not a celebration. It is a turning point, a reminder that this institution only survives if we choose honor over vanity, loyalty over favoritism, and truth over illusion." He looked down at the pearls still scattered across the floor, then back up. "Starting now." The palace gates closed with a soft clang that afternoon, barely audible over the gentle drizzle brushing against the car's windows. Camilla sat alone in the back seat, hands folded, eyes fixed on the blurred shape of Buckingham fading in the distance. No one waved goodbye. No press, no farewell ceremony, just the cold silence of a woman being erased. Her new residence in Wiltshire was technically grand. Stone walls, manicured lawns, high ceilings, but it felt hollow. Every room echoed, the kind of silence that doesn't soothe but swallows you whole. The staff was minimal. A cook, a driver, no royal advisors, no security details swarming around her, just quiet, like punishment without chains. Camilla kept a routine. Wake early, skim the papers, sip cold tea. Some days, she didn't speak at all. She read headlines that once would have burned her with envy. William tours Africa. Kate expands mental health initiative. Anne honored at Global Summit. Her name? Never there, not even in the footnotes. She'd tried calling Charles once. The line rang until it didn't. No answer, no return call. Each morning, she'd wander her garden in a long robe, staring at the trees like they might whisper a way back. But even nature gave her nothing. Just wind through branches and the ticking of time she could no longer control. The few friends who'd once surrounded her, charity organizers, minor aristocrats, ex-socialites, disappeared fast. Calls unanswered, invitations never sent. Loyalty in the royal orbit was thin, and now that she had no power, she had no people. She wrote letters, not to Charles, those days were gone. She wrote to herself, pages and pages, trying to make sense of it, trying to justify what she'd done. "I only wanted to be respected. I waited so long. Why couldn't they just let me have it just once?" But the ink dried without answers. Nights were the worst. Long, stormy ones where lightning lit up the windows and the fireplace offered little warmth. She'd sit curled on a velvet chair, flipping through old photographs. Her wedding, her first official event, her standing beside Charles at the coronation, half a step behind, always behind. And then there was that image she couldn't forget. That hall, that box, the pearls skittering across marble like marbles in a child's tantrum. Over and over it played in her mind. The moment her dream shattered into 1,000 tiny beads, each one a reminder of what she lost. The public forgot fast. The internet moved on. New gossip, new faces, fresh controversies. Camilla became an afterthought, a blip, like a stain scrubbed off the palace's golden frame. No official statement, no biography update, no royal portrait, just a quiet deletion. Charles, meanwhile, continued, more composed, more present than ever. His approval rating spiked. William stepped further into the spotlight. Kate blossomed into a global figure. Anne, steadfast as ever, stood tall. The monarchy, against all odds, looked stronger. Camilla's absence was never explained. It didn't need to be. Months later, a reporter tried to track her down. They never made it past the gates. In the end, it wasn't a scandal that ruined her. It wasn't exile or jail or a public breakdown. It was the silence. The unspoken decision to let her fade. The monarchy didn't strip her title. They didn't have to. They just stopped saying her name. One morning, Camilla stood at the edge of her garden, clouds thick above, wind cutting through her coat. She stared out past the hedges, eyes tired, shoulders slumped. Not crying, not angry, just gone, like a ghost standing in a kingdom no longer hers. She whispered, as if hoping someone might still be listening, "I could have worn it with grace." But grace was never the issue. It was never about the necklace. It was about the crown she tried to steal from the shadows